hiding his power. He is not a dictator. He knows we are in trouble, but there is no way he can redeem us unless we cooperate with him through our own effort. By our own free choice, we alone decide whether to accept him or cast him aside. You are potentially equal to God. Another thing, ordinary dictators never want anyone else to be like them. They are inimical to each other because they want to be unique and supreme. But God is not like that. He made you in His image. You are potentially equal to God since you are a part of Him. Each one of us has the ability to become godly if he would cast off the eclipse of ignorance. You don't have to acquire anything, you have it already. The gold of the soul is right there within you, covered with the mud of delusion. All you have to do is scrape off that mud. So you see, on the one side God is a dictator because He created us against our will. But He is surely trying to rectify that by being a spiritual dictator. He speaks only through His laws and draws only with His love. But because He doesn't manifest Himself on earth and demand to be elected as the Almighty Ruler, He is not a dictator. The Lord isn't campaigning for election except in the individual election of your heart. When your heart will sparkle with the light of your soul's love for Spirit, when that love will destroy all the psychological prisons that have held captive your free choice, then He will come without your asking. He will say, "Your love is so dazzling, so enticing, that I would like to come to you, if you will let me." So God as a spiritual dictator will never use force, nor appear to the world and proclaim, "I am the Lord of the universe." It is only when your soul will call to God, and your heart will melt with love for Him that you will know Him. Chapter: Receiving God's Answers to Your Prayers. This article is a composite of introductory material written by Paramahansa Yogananda for early editions of his book, Whispers from Eternity. When Paramahansaji revised Whispers for the then forthcoming 8th edition, he wrote a basically new introduction. While the instructions in this article refer specifically to the invocations in Whispers from Eternity, the principles expressed elucidate a science of prayer that is applicable to all who seek divine aid in changing their lives through the power of prayer. God made man in His image. All those who know how to receive Him can realize the divinity sleeping within them by expanding the powers of the mind. Being children of God, we have potential dominion over all things in His universe, even as He has. The question arises, why is it that many of our wishes are not fulfilled, and that many of God's children suffer intensely? God, with His divine impartiality, could not make one child better than another. He originally made all souls alike and in His image. They also receive the greatest gifts of God, freedom of the will and power to reason and to act accordingly. Somewhere, sometime in the past, men have broken the various laws of God, and accordingly have brought about lawful results. All men have been given absolute liberty to use human reason wrongly or rightly. Misuse of God-given reason leads to sin, which is the cause of suffering. The right use leads to virtue, the precursor of happiness. God, with His infinite nobility, would not punish us. We punish ourselves through our own unreasonable actions and reward ourselves through our own good conduct. This alone explains why God's responsibility ended when He endowed man with reason and with free will. Man has misused this God-given independence and thus has brought upon himself ignorance, physical suffering, premature death, and other ills. He reaps what he sows. The law of cause and effect applies to all lives. All the todays in one's life are determined by the actions of all the yesterdays, and all the tomorrows of one's life depend upon the way in which all the todays are handled and lived. Thus it is that man, although created in the image of God and potentially endowed with His powers, loses his claim and birthright to dominion over his Father's universe, through his own faults and self-imposed limitations. The misuse of reason and the identification of the soul with the transitory body, or with environmental or hereditary or world influences, are responsible for man's despairs and miseries. How a sleeping son of God may become an awakened son of God. Yet the fact remains that every human being, however wrong outwardly, is potentially a son of God. Even the greatest of sinners is but an unawakened son of God, a sleeping immortal who refuses fully to receive his light by clarifying his consciousness. In John 1:12 we find written, "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name." The ocean cannot be received in a cup unless the cup is made as large as the ocean. Likewise, the cup of human concentration and human faculties must be enlarged in order to comprehend God. Receiving denotes capacity acquired by self-development. It is different from mere belief. How the belief of being a son of God can become a realization. The purport of St. John's words is that those sleeping sons of God who awake, by following the law of spiritual discipline, receive or feel God by developed intuition, and thus regain their latent powers as sons of God. It is ignorance that prompts man to imagine his littleness and limitations. Ignorance is the sin of all sins. It is the man sleeping in delusion who acknowledges and emphasizes his dream of human weaknesses. It is wrong for a soul in the garb of the ego to believe itself limited by the body, instead of knowing itself as part of the unlimited spirit. It is good and right to believe that one is a son of God, rather than the son of a mortal only, for it is metaphysically true that man is essentially made in the image of God. It is an error, therefore, for one to imagine that he is a perishable creature. Even by belief alone, one may gradually cultivate his intuitive knowing and someday realize his true soul nature as a son of God. Hence, a wayward child must start by believing this truth, as belief is the initial condition for testing and knowing a truth. When in trouble, one automatically prays to an unknown God and expects relief. If free from trouble, even incidentally, he believes his prayers were heard and responded to by God. But, should his prayer request remain ungranted, he becomes confused and begins to lose faith in God. Demand versus prayer. My purpose in presenting these sacred demands and whispers from eternity, received in the course of my various fruitful communions with our Father, is to enable my fellow beings to contact Him effectually. I prefer the word demand to prayer because the former is devoid of the primitive and medieval conception of a kingly tyrant God whom we as beggars have to supplicate and flatter. There is a great deal of beggary and ignorance in ordinary prayer. People pray haphazardly. Few know how to pray and touch God with their prayers, nor do they know whether their prayers are responded to or not, or whether things happened, unaffected by prayers. Nor do they distinguish between things that they need and things that they want. Sometimes it is very good that we do not receive what we think we want. A child may want to touch a flame, but to save it from harm the mother does not grant the child's wish. God, though all-powerful, does not act unlawfully or arbitrarily merely because one prays. He has given independence to man, who does with it what he pleases. To forgive human shortcomings so that man can continue his misbehavior without consequences would mean that God contradicts himself, disregards the law of cause and effect as applied to the law of action, and handles human lives not according to the laws created by himself, but according to his whim. Nor can God be moved by flattery or by praise to change the course of his immutable laws. Must we then live without the intercession of the grace and mercy of God, and remain helpless victims of human frailties? Must we then inevitably face the fruits of our actions as if by preordination or so-called fate? No. The Lord is both law and love. The devotee who with pure devotion and faith seeks the unconditional love of God, and who also brings his actions into harmony with divine law, will surely receive the purifying, mitigating touch of God. Any sin, and its consequence, can be forgiven the repentant devotee who loves God deeply enough, and thereby puts his life in tune with the all-compassionate Lord. The best way lies neither in begging for favors or for amnesty from evil results, nor in being resigned and sitting idle, inviting the law of action to take its course. What is done by ourselves can be undone by ourselves. We must adopt the proper antidotes for our poisonous actions. For example, ill health can often be overcome by obeying laws of good health. But, when chronic diseases and sufferings are beyond the control of human care, when the power of human methods fails to cure ills physical or mental, revealing its limitations, then we must ask God to help, He who is unlimited in power. And we must lovingly demand as sons of God and not as beggars. Every begging prayer, no matter how sincere, limits the soul. As sons of God, we must believe that we have everything the Father has. This is our birthright. Jesus realized the truth, I and my Father are one. That is why he had dominion over everything, even as his Father had. Most of us beg and pray without first establishing in our own minds our divine birthright. That is why we are limited by the law of beggary. We do not have to beg, but to reclaim and demand from our Father that which we, through our human imagination, thought to be lost. It becomes necessary at this stage to destroy the wrong thought of ages, that we are frail human beings. We must think, meditate, affirm, believe and realize daily that we are sons of God, and behave accordingly. This realization may take time, but we must begin with the right method, rather than gamble with the unscientific beggary of prayers and consequently be subject to disbelief, doubts, or the jugglery of superstition. It is only when the slumbering ego perceives itself not as a body, but as a free soul or son of God, residing in and working through the body, that it can rightfully and lawfully demand its divine rights. Deep attention and devotion are necessary. These sacred demands reveal a few of the attitudes of the soul that have met with successful response from God. However, it is not enough merely to demand in another's language. One should not rely on a book on love when he meets his beloved, but should use the spontaneous language of his heart. If one uses another's language of love in demands addressed to God, he must make the words his own, by thoroughly understanding and dwelling upon their meaning, and applying to them the utmost concentration and love. Even as it is not amiss when a lover addresses his beloved in the language of a great poet, and enlivens those words with his own love and feeling. Blind repetition of demands or affirmations, without concomitant devotion or spontaneous love, makes one merely a praying Victrola, which does not know what its prayer means. Grinding out prayers vocally and mechanically while inwardly thinking of something else does not bring response from God. Blind repetition, taking the name of God in vain, is fruitless. Repeating a demand or prayer over and over again, mentally or orally, and with deepening attention and devotion, spiritualizes the prayer and changes conscious, believing repetition into superconscious experience. The Divine Being cannot be deceived by a mockery of prayer because He is the fountain of thoughts. He cannot be bribed at any time, yet it is easy to move Him with sincerity, persistency, concentration, devotion, determination, and faith. Furthermore, repeating a long intellectual prayer with the mind absent develops hypocrisy, and to pray or demand without understanding develops ignorance, fanaticism, and superstition. Repeating a demand with deepening concentration and faith is not mechanical repetition, but a changing, progressing power and mental preparation which, step by step, scientifically reaches God. These sacred demands are logical, devotional, deep soul outbursts. If one prepares the mind by concentration, and then deeply, with ever-increasing faith and devotion, mentally or aloud in congregations affirms these scientific divine demands, one is bound to receive results. To re-establish your unity with the Divine Father as a Son of God is your most important demand. Realize this truth and you will have received everything. Demand unceasingly and you will receive. After sowing the demand seed in the soil of faith, do not dig it up now and then in order to examine it, or it will never germinate to fulfillment. Sow your demand seed in faith and water it by repeated daily practices in demanding rightly. Never be discouraged if results are not forthcoming immediately. Stand firm in your demands and you will regain your lost divine heritage, and then only will the great satisfaction visit your heart. Demand until you establish your divine rights. Demand unceasingly that which belongs to you and you will receive it. In demanding rightly, there is no room for superstition, disappointment, or doubt. Once you learn to operate the right chain of causation that effectually moves God, you will know that He was not hiding from you, but that you were hiding from Him behind the shadow of self-created darkness. Once you feel, through intuitive knowing, that you are a son of God, then by the steady effort of mental discipline and devotional meditation, you will have dominion over all things. If your demand remains unfulfilled, unanswered, you can blame only yourself and your past actions. Do not become despondent. Do not say that you have resigned yourself to fate or to the preordained commands of a whimsical God, but try with increased effort after each failure to get what you have not, what you did not receive because of your own fault, but what is yours already in spirit. Demand with sacred devotion the recognition of your divine birthright as a son of God. To know exactly how and when to pray according to the nature of our needs is what brings the desired results. When the right method is applied, it sets in motion the proper laws of God. The operation of these laws scientifically bears results. Some practical hints. Select a demand from the contents according to your need. Sitting motionless on a straight chair with spine erect, calm your mind. For as a wet match cannot be ignited, so a mind saturated with doubt and restlessness is unable to produce the fire of concentration, even when prodigious efforts are made to strike the cosmic spark. The flame of inspiration is hidden within the lines of the prayer demands in this book, but since they are presented through the mute medium of printer's ink, paper, and intellectual meanings, one must use his own intuition and devotion to bring forth their inner illumining flame. By the Christ command of your deep intuitional perception, resurrect the inmost substance of words from the sepulchre of hollow, intellectual concepts. Different minds reading this same prayer may interpret it differently. The vast ocean of truth can be measured and perceived only according to the capacity of one's own intelligence and perception. Similarly, the inspiration behind these prayer demands will be felt according to the depths of one's own intuition and feeling. In order to benefit fully from the God warmth within these prayer demands, one should take only a paragraph at a time from any demand, mentally picture the meaning, visualize the imagery of the figure of speech, and meditate deeply on it, until the fiery essence emerges, free from word limitations. One may wish to read a complete prayer demand to get a quick view of its entire meaning. But, if he will then reread it over and over again, many times, and then with closed eyes repeatedly try to feel the deep inspiration behind and within it, he will spiritualize the prayer, that is, rouse the inspiration slumbering beneath the thick silken quilt of words. With eyes closed and lifted to the point of spiritual concentration between the eyebrows, meditate on the meaning of the demand you have selected until it becomes a part of you. Saturate the demand with devotion as you meditate upon it. As your meditation becomes deeper, increase your devotion and mentally offer the demand as your own heart's outburst. Imbue yourself with faith that your heart's craving expressed through this specific demand is being felt by God. Feel that just behind the screen of your devotional demand, God is listening to the silent words of your soul. Feel this. Be one with your heart's demand, and be thoroughly convinced that He has listened to you. Then go about your duties, seeking not to know whether God will grant your demand. Believe absolutely that your demand has been heard, and that you will know that what is God's is yours also. Unceasingly meditate on God, and when you feel Him, you will acquire your rightful inheritance as His divine Son. Daily blossoms from the ever-living plant of prayer demands. These demands were given to me by the Universal Father. They are not mine. I only felt them and gave them expression through the avenue of words that I might share them with you. My blessing goes with them, and I pray that they may strike an answering note on the living heartstrings of your heart, so that you may feel them just as I have felt them. Prayer demands are like ever-living plants that ceaselessly put forth new blossoms. A prayer plant retains the same branches of words, but daily yields fresh roses of God feeling and inspiration, if one regularly waters the plant with meditation. The prayer plant must also be protected from the ravages of doubt, distraction, mental idleness, leaving meditation until tomorrow, the morrow that never comes, absent-mindedness, and thinking of something else while imagining that the mind is wholly on the sole force of a prayer. Such parasites on the prayer plants should be destroyed by faith, devotion to God, self-control, determination, and loyalty to a teaching. Roses of immortal inspiration may then be gathered daily from the plants of these prayer demands. O seeker after soul awakening, be still and let God answer you through your intuition-tuned soul. Learn to know Him by knowing your true self. Chapter: The Wisdom Way to Overcome Karma. Much has been written about the law of karma. But I am afraid that the karmic theory, as sagely explained by the masters of India, has been so distorted by non-understanding minds that the Western peoples have garnered a wrong idea about this great cosmic principle of cause and effect. You have relegated the word karma to a limited meaning to refer only to the past. But this is erroneous. Karma, in general, means action, not merely the effects of past actions. It can refer to action performed in the past or now, or that might be done in the future. When you say water, you may be referring to water in general, or you may specifically mean fresh water or salt water or any other kind of water. So the real meaning of the word karma is any action you perform, and the sum total of all your actions, both good and bad, present and past. Actions that you are performing now are called present karma. Actions that have already been performed are called past karma. And when you refer to the effects of past actions, you would say, "This is the result of my past karma." Even then you are not telling what kind of karma, beneficial or pain-producing. Then comes the question, what are the springs of action? What influences you to act and behave in a certain way? Now we have launched into the heart of the matter. You act in a certain way today, and you say, "I have been acting this way all of my life." We get into deeper water when I ask you to consider the influences on those actions. There are two ways you work, prompted by your own free choice and by influences. So many subtle influences are interwoven with your decisions that it is very difficult for you to judge which actions are performed according to your own free choice and which are performed under karmic compulsions of the past or any other influences. It is rare to see a truly free man. Most people think they are free while their minds are utterly fettered by psychological chains. These are harder to get rid of than ordinary chains, for in their subtlety they are difficult even to recognize, not to speak of how to destroy them. It requires a great deal of knowledge to cut those psychological restraints. There may be 1,000,000 years of actions of past lives pursuing you. That is why an ordinary individual finds himself so helpless to destroy the binding effects of his karma. He feels hopelessly bound by those invisible chains, influences resulting from all the actions he chose to perform in past lives, through free will or through prevailing influences. As tabloid tendencies, the actions you have performed in the past are present in the brain. Diagnosing those karmic influences is not a simple matter. But, according to your salient features, inclinations, and moods, you can detect what propensities have been trailing you and how strong an influence they are on your present life and your present actions. The influences on man's freedom of action. Now, in addition to your karma from the past, what are the influences on your present life? World civilization is one of them. In whatever era a man is born, he is influenced by the civilization of that age. If one is born in the 8th century, he is influenced by that century. You are all dressing, for example, according to the present civilization. You have more materials to choose from than in past centuries. You are thinking more of comfort and style than of mere warmth and necessity. Similarly, you are all eating now according to the present civilization. For instance, there was no talk about vitamins in the 6th century. So your present consciousness and actions or behavior are influenced by this present-day society. Then the next strong influence upon man is nationality. The soul identifies itself with the body and says, I am American, or I am a Hindu, and so on. It is not easy to get rid of that influence, of that identification. But why should you think that you are an American, or an Indian, or a Frenchman? And why did I used to think that I was a Hindu? You see, I say I used to think, because I am one with all mankind. I have trained myself that way, not to be prejudiced by nationality, race, or any other circumscription that limits the universality of the soul. I am subtly telling you how to overcome your karma too. Always remain universal in your attitude and habits of life. Then you become free. The soul has worn many garbs. Today you are an American, and in the next life possibly Chinese, and so on. That is why it is unwise to hate any nationality, for hate attracts just as love attracts. Anything you hate, you attract to yourself, that you may learn to overcome that prejudice. That is the law. For instance, those who hate a dark race will be born in that race, invariably. The greater the hatred, the stronger will be the karmic attraction to the object hated. The origin of the light and dark races was influenced by climatic conditions. Climate will so change that someday it will be natural to see the white races in the east and the dark races in the west. That will happen, but many years from now. Then man is influenced by the community in which he lives. He is influenced by his neighbors. If he lives in an aristocratic neighborhood, he tends to behave in an aristocratic way. If he lives among businessmen, he behaves like them. Different kinds of people have different kinds of habits that influence you. Mix with artists and you will think that is the only way to be. I am not condemning artists, but they need to be more practical-minded. You cannot live on beauty alone. I slept and dreamed that life was beauty. I woke and found that life was duty. You must see beauty in duty. Remain in the company of spiritual persons, and you will think spiritual thoughts. Environment is stronger than willpower. If you want to be spiritual, seek good company and don't mix with those whose bad habits may wrongly influence you. You are also strongly influenced by your family. You think that you belong to a particular group of people, the family unit. They have put a trademark on you, and their habits encumber you. Lastly, everyone is drunk with some habits. Sometimes man is crazy about money, and sometimes he is crazy for love, and then for fame, and so on. all the time battered and bludgeoned by the influence of his own habitual past actions of this life and past lives. That is the hypnosis of karma. Regaining your God-given freedom. Where is your freedom? How little freedom you have left. The freedom that God has given to you as His own, to touch the Milky Way, and to feel your presence in the flowers and in the stars. That freedom has gone completely because of the many influences upon you. Most people are like psychological antiques, brittle with set ideas, with set influences. The minute you sit on them, they break. That is why our Indian astrologers say we are all puppets. I do not believe that. I believe you can destroy any karma you want to. If you close all the doors and windows in a room, darkness is there. But if you bring in the light, that darkness is gone instantly. Even the darkness that has permeated a cave for thousands of years is vanquished immediately when light is brought in. Will you reason that it will take light 100 years to destroy those aeons of darkness? That is foolish. So we may have karma of past lives under whatever civilization, nationality, community, and family we have lived, and of this life with the influences of this present civilization, nationality, community, and family. But if we realize we are gods, we will be free from that karma now. Every human being is made in the image of God. If you find that image within you, how can you have any karma? God as the master of this universe has no karma. If you know that you are one with God, there can be no karma for you. A venomous snake is not affected by the poison within it. It is also true that while delusion, or Maya, is in the manifestation of God in creation, and that it affects us, it does not affect Him. That is not fair, is it? That is why He has to give us salvation, but it will not come unless we demand it. Being made in God's image, we can be free from karma provided we claim our divine heritage from Him. You have been led to believe exactly the opposite. To believe in karma is to give strength to it. Why should you believe you are bound? You should think, I am not a mortal being, I am a child of God. Then you cut at the root of karma. Beyond the flights of fancy, formless am I, permeating all limbs of life. No freedom do I crave, nor bondage do I fear. For I am free, ever conscious, ever new bliss. I am free. I am He, blessed Spirit, I am He. But as soon as you give in to the delusion that you are a human being, you have permitted all the karma of the past to envelop you. This life is a den of thieves. Its influences rob you of your divine inheritance. When you say, I don't belong here, and you make the effort to get out, you will no longer be an unwilling captive. Salvage your freedom with wisdom and discrimination. You must salvage your freedom. When you have made certain resolutions, have you been able to carry them out? If you have not, you are bound by karma. But if you have been able to do the things you wanted to do guided by your discrimination, and not because of the influences of your past or present karma, or because of your national or social or family life, that is freedom. Judge everything from the standpoint of discrimination and wisdom. Let not your actions be governed by habits or blind obedience to social customs, according to what other people think. Be free. Once in a while you see a free man, one who doesn't walk in dead men's shoes, one who is free because his actions are not influenced by anything but wisdom. That is the mark of Mahatma Gandhi's greatness. When he went to England and visited the king and queen, he didn't put on a dress suit as was the custom. He was received by them in his simple village loincloth and shawl. He enjoys great freedom because he lives his ideals and is not bound by social custom. Whenever you do anything, ask yourself whether it is merely because of what other people may think about you, or whether you are following discriminative wisdom. That is the criterion by which I act. Even as freeborn Americans, you do not know what real freedom is. Many people think that whatever comes into their brains they may do, and believe that to be freedom. But true freedom lies in doing what you should do when you ought to do it. Otherwise you are a slave. Be actuated by wisdom alone. If you are not able to do that, you are going to remain a slave for centuries of incarnations. Now, to follow truth doesn't mean you have to bludgeon others with your convictions. Share truth only when it is welcomed or asked for. Otherwise, learn to be quiet. Keep your own counsel. But when you feel you should speak, speak. Stand against the world if necessary. Galileo said that the earth goes round the sun, and he was crucified for that. Later it was found that he was right. But never do anything out of pride. To do so is to fall. Learn to act wisely by attunement with the true Guru. In every action be guided by wisdom, never by a desire to hurt anybody. But if anyone is hurt because of your doing the right thing, you should not be afraid. You have to answer to yourself, not to anyone else. Even God is not your judge. You are your own judge. If you act wrongly, you are going to punish yourself. If you act rightly, you will free yourself. That is the justice of the law of karma. You are dictated to neither by God nor his angels, but by the law of action. What you sow, you reap. Whenever you meet with misfortune, do not put the blame for it on God. The blame rests with you alone, resulting from your past actions. If you lack the wisdom to discern what is right, then tune yourself in with the wisdom of a wise man. Often what you think to be wisdom is not wisdom at all, but your own desires and karmic inclinations. That is why you should have a guru. Guru is one who is sent by God to free you. When you are in tune with his wisdom, you find freedom. Otherwise, you remain a slave to your whims. The way to freedom is to follow those who themselves are free. When I met my Guru Swami Sri Yukteswar, he told me to tune in my will with his will. He said that my will was strong but governed by instincts, but when I tuned my will with his will, I found it governed by wisdom. No one can incite me to do anything I know I should not do. I know what I am doing, guided by wisdom now. I am fully responsible for my actions, and I do not blame anybody else for the outcome of my actions. That freedom which Master gave to me I have never parted with. Understand this. By surrendering thyself to the Guru, by questioning the Guru in thine inner perception, and by service to the Guru, the sages who have realized truth will impart that wisdom to thee. Comprehending that wisdom from a Guru, thou wilt not again fall into delusion. It is so hard to progress on your own on the spiritual path, but it is the easiest thing if you have a true Guru to whom you surrender yourself, and whose interest is only in your spiritual welfare. I gave myself completely to my Master, and I found he gave his all to me. And through that surrender I found freedom. That freedom every soul craves. That is the way to overcome your karma. A guru's only interest is to help you progress spiritually. If the teacher wants something from the disciple, he is not a master. The master's only desire is to give, not to take. But if the disciple has the wish to help the work of the master, that is to his credit, he is helped by giving to God's cause. The masters create a few disciples who carry on their work. Masters are interested in souls rather than in crowds, souls that will follow and are really willing to discipline themselves. A true disciple is one who seeks liberation by accepting the Guru's discipline, and who disciplines himself by the wisdom-guided instructions of the Guru. But most disciples want to be gurus instead. Here in the West, the church members expect the minister to cater to them. He becomes their slave. I never ask for anything from you, all for myself. I have suggested at times that you help the work, but I have kept myself free from enslavement to people. Even when sorely tried by financial problems of the work, I have not bowed down to anyone nor compromised my ideals. I have kept myself free. If Washington is blown away from me, I shall not mind, and if it is left with me, I shall joyously carry the burden of concern for it to my last day. Such is my principle. Wherever God keeps me, I shall carry on. For the will of the Father is my will. How Guru's discipline frees one from imprisoning whims and habits. All your life you have been a slave following your own whims. I remember in my youth I couldn't eat this or that food, but when I came under Master, he ironed out all those kinks of thought. First he found out what I didn't like to eat. He said, "So, you don't like this, you don't like that." After 7 days he asked me how I liked the food I had been eating in the ashram. I said that it was marvelous. He told me then that I had been eating in the various preparations the very foods that I thought I couldn't eat. He helped me to conquer likes and dislikes by such discipline. Most people of the West think only of comfort. Master never bothered about where I slept, and if I tried to be more comfortable in the human way, he criticized me. By such constructive criticism and training I found complete freedom from food consciousness, dress and social consciousness, and body consciousness. I was so happy, free from the prison of my own making. Master gave me that freedom by his guidance, freedom from habits and moods and limiting thoughts. So let not your will be the prisoner of your habits and whims. That doesn't mean you should not use your will. Learn to use it with discrimination, for then you are using the will of your Father. Learn to compare your developing discrimination with the wisdom discrimination of the Guru, for only then can you be sure when you are right. We are much too fond of our own thoughts. Whatever our notion, we want to drag out a whole body of scripture to support it. But when you compare your will with the Master's will, and are guided by his will, then you know whether you are following wisdom or following instincts and your past karma. The scriptures say you must have a visible master, that is, one who lived on earth. To follow the counsel of a true guru is the only way you can be sure your actions are leading you to freedom from karma. A wise man has no personal desire for you to obey him, but if you volunteer to be obedient to his guidance, he will certainly tell you the truth. He will tell you what is best for you, and no matter how many times you falter or leave him, he will always speak the truth to you for your own good. He cannot be bribed in any way. Such was my Master. He was the one among many who never hesitated to tell me my faults. He used to say, "There is the door, and at time you want to go, you are free to leave." Many fled, but I didn't leave. I knew he wanted nothing from me, but I wanted that something which he had. Master told me his discipline would smart sometimes, but if I promised to be obedient, I must honor that promise. And I did. Here in America, the teacher is made to feel he must deal with the church members with kid gloves. But Master's way was strong. He told me, "Your methods will be much milder than mine, but this is my way. Take it or leave it." I took it gladly. It made me a free person. But no one can free you unless you make the effort to free yourself. God wants you to be free. He has given you free choice to follow the path of wisdom or to follow the path of karma. Try to do everything with wisdom, and at night examine yourself and see if you have succeeded. Be self-disciplined. If you can obey Guru's guidance and remember to do what he says, and be ever watchful of yourself, you will suddenly see that you are free. Then every day you will feel freedom. Wisdom destroys the roots of all misery. Imagine what freedom you feel when you are free from the influences of this world, or your past, or your family, or neighbors, or your habits. You realize you are pure spirit. You belong to no group, no nationality, no family, no habits. Karma belongs to the den of thieves where karmic people live. Always think I and my Father are one. I have no karma, I am free. O Arjuna, as enkindled flame converts firewood into ashes, so does the fire of wisdom consume to ashes all karma. Verily, nothing else in this world is as sanctifying as wisdom. In due course of time, The devotee who is successful in yoga will spontaneously realize this within his self. When you destroy the causes of karma, you have destroyed the roots and future seeds of all suffering, all misery. You become the true sons of God. You have claimed your own true nature. It does not matter then what happens to the body. Those who are bathed in wisdom know that nothing can hurt them. Jesus knew he was going to be crucified, but he was not touched by this knowledge. By rebuilding his body temple after death, he showed that he was free from karma. To admit karma means to accept yourself as a mortal being. Do not admit you are a helpless mortal governed by karma. Affirm, I am a child of God. I am His. That is the truth. Why shouldn't you proclaim the truth? As soon as you realize this truth, your status is changed. But when you admit you are immortal, you bind yourself with the chains of the mortal being. You are the sons of God. You are gods. How could karma influence you? Refuse to be bound by karma. It is an old superstition of the ignorant to believe you cannot change your destiny. Never say you are a sinner. How can you be a sinner? God is your Father. If He created this world with its potential for many evil ways, you would have to say that He too must be a sinner. That is the way I talk to God. It never hurts to speak truth to Him. If God can be away from the evil of His creation, so can we. As He is free, we can be free. Never again identify yourself with evil. You may have made a mistake, but it doesn't belong to you if you give it up. Destroy your karma by wisdom. Live in the consciousness of spirit. Today you say I am spirit, and tomorrow you do something wrong and want to give up. Don't accept your weaknesses. Jesus on the cross didn't give up. Even in the midst of the greatest torture or temptation, if you can hold on to your perception of wisdom, you will in the next minute be free. The wise retain that freedom even when facing death, but the ignorant fall back on their old mortal habits. If you give up and think that there is no chance for you, you have pronounced your own fatal judgment. You are the one who created your good and bad karma, and when you say there is no hope, you have failed. But when you think I am free, I am strong, even though bad karma strikes me, still I will not give up, then you will see your good karma coming forth. No matter how bad your karma is, try to diagnose your life and strive to do good, to do right, according to your wisdom. Your karma will change. You will see that your bad karma will change into good. Every night keep a mental diary. See if your habits have crushed you. Whenever a person does wrong and says he can't help it, he is a slave. He should rather admit he did wrong and then try to do better. He may fall again, but he must say, I will try harder. That is the way to overcome. Do not give in. You are not a sinner, and anybody who calls you a sinner is himself a sinner. True purpose of religion. Do you see how much the church movement needs reformation? They expect people to follow religion by proxy. But truth has to be lived, it has to be realized as a part of one's own being. The church movement has done a lot of good, but it must really reform each individual. One moon gives more light in this world than all the stars, so is every truly reformed individual. To keep your minds on God, I seldom think of socials for our churches. I only discuss wisdom with you. I do not divert you from the real purpose of religion, to know God. That is why Self-Realization Fellowship is creating churches of all religions, that all people can feel the spiritual barriers gone and come together to really seek God. Jesus said, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them." The primary goal of the church should not be to build more churches and gather in more converts, but to give God realization. Hives without the honey of God communion are nothing. Jesus warned that the blind cannot lead the blind. If you have not God, you cannot give God to others. I told Master I would never stand before a congregation and talk about God unless he gave me the experience of God. That is the important thing, to have that divine experience of God. God has given us the methods to destroy karma. Guide your actions by wisdom, not influences. Be self-disciplined and follow the wisdom guidance of a true guru. Believe in your divine inheritance as a child of God made in His image. Associate with good company, such as coming here to church regularly, and practice the techniques that will give you actual personal experience of God. Hear about the wisdom of yoga, equipped with which, O Arjuna, thou shalt shatter the bonds of karma. Here we teach you what to do in the silence of meditation, especially the practice of Kriya Yoga, so that you truly experience God communion. That is why self-realization fellowship is reaching all over the world. This path is sent by some of India's greatest masters to Christianize the churches and to show that the real meaning of religion is to realize God. Each of you, by the example of your life, must be a messenger of this light. Chapter: Realize your Christ immortality. On the screen of time, a drama of life is being enacted in the mundane movie mansion. Cosmic motion picture director has been projecting on the screen the many and varied pictures of ancient, medieval, and modern times. He films pictures of war, famine, poverty, tragedy, comedy, good and evil, to keep the audience entertained throughout eternity. The appetite of entertainment-loving minds being enormous, the cosmic movie director is trying to film and play an omnibus of pictures. This earth is meant to be a place of mirth, a temporary pleasure house for immortals. Because we forget this and become identified with the earthly drama, we suffer. We must remember that our real home is in the mansion of changeless, ever-new, blissful, omnipresent immortality. Unwise souls who play truant and get intoxicated with mundane desires and delusions want to dally in the earthly movie house, experiencing the excitement of pleasure and pain, health and disease, life and death. Creation came into being through a desireless desire of spirit. The Lord was one and alone, with no one to enjoy His joy. So He wished to express His bliss through many. He sent on earth immortals, individualized images of Himself, to watch the short, ever-changing dramas of life and death. Contrarily, while the immortals were enjoying their individuality, they fell into the trap of duality. Through identification with the characters in this earthly movie, the godly immortal souls succumb to the disease of delusion, the mortal consciousness of change. As one wealthy prince thought himself a poor miserable beggar when he was drunk in the slums, so immortals imagine themselves to be sick or well, alive or dead, happy or miserable when intoxicated with the delusion of change in the mortal show of this earth. I would prefer even to be bored with my immortality rather than undergo the nightmare of earthly dream death from a malignant disease. Unwise immortals, while playing in a tragedy on earth, identify themselves with that temporary role. Taking it too seriously, they begin to moan if they have to play that they are dying in poverty. If an immortal faints, thinking he is dying from a gunshot wound that was only a dream injury in a dream play, then he is foolish. Befuddled immortals inflict on themselves so many ridiculous mental tortures. Some rich men, dying with nervous breakdown dreams, say, "If only I could live on this earth with a healthy body, I would be glad to live without a penny." So they reincarnate as healthy men, but without money. Then they struggle and struggle for money, and when they are dying of starvation they say, "If only I had health and money, how happy I would be." So they reincarnate with plenty of money and health, but without happiness. On their deathbed they think, "If only I could have happiness, I would forego health and riches." The next time they come back to earth very happy, but without health or riches, for which they soon realize a need, and so the cycle continues. In this way immortal souls repeatedly punish themselves, because they never can find on this earth complete satisfaction. To die of a broken heart and enter the grave with desires that were unfulfilled by seeing or playing in this earthly movie house is extremely foolish, for this earthly drama could never afford the perfect happiness of spirit. Some people die longing for perfect human love. Others die dreaming of perfect happiness through the attainment of wealth and fame, but they are all deceived, for to own this whole earth and be adored by all its people is very little compared to what is lost by remaining a prodigal mortal. To contact omnipresence is to own the whole cosmos with all its entertainment and ever-new immortality. In comparison, to own this earth is nothing. It would be fraught with sorrows, and at the time of death the delusion of its being wrested away from you would torture the soul. Material things cannot be owned by anybody, for at death they must be left behind and given to others. We are only allowed to use the objects of this world. So it is foolish to be possessed by material possessions. Just pray to be given the use of what you need and the power to create those things at will. Since death compels us to give up everything, even a millionaire dies poor. Rather be like Jesus. He was materially poor, but rich with God. He had nothing material in life, yet having God he had all, even after death. Worldly-minded rich people have everything in this life and nothing hereafter. Remember, no matter who you are or what your condition is, do not think your trouble is the worst in the world. Even if you are playing a part fraught with poverty or disease, there are others who are enacting a part worse than yours. In this earth life, to be a millionaire or a poor man is the same if you but understand. If you see yourself as an actor in this earthly movie house, all you have to remember is to play your role, small or big, cheerfully and well. That is all. During the playing of your part, agreeable or otherwise, do not wish to play somebody else's role. Complete your own assignment, or you will have to spend eons of time in the enactment of imperfect human parts, changing from one to another according to the change of your desires. Get away from this entrapment. The only way to foil disappointments of will-o'-the-wisp prosperity, fame, and earthly happiness is not to feel sorry when you are denied what you think you want. Of course, you will say, our desires are conditioned by our needs. We want food because hunger was given to us. I admit that, but I am talking of a greater freedom in mind and soul. When you attain that, not even tattered robes or death by starvation can produce inwardly an iota of unhappiness. When you possess the all-in-all God consciousness, even if you have nothing of material possessions, yet you have all. People who really contact God can never feel poor or left out, nor can they consider the rich as more fortunate than themselves. Instead, the man who is intoxicated with God happiness pities everybody else. When Jesus said, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head," he was not bemoaning his poverty. Rather, he was signifying that he was the owner of the cosmos, one with omnipresence. Thus he could not remain caged in a small place as earthly creatures do. Jesus had no bank account, nor did he exhort people to demonstrate prosperity first, as some modern religious organizations do, teaching their members to pray to God or to go into the silence with both eyes fixed on the granting of material desires. Jesus warned, "Bread the men of the world matter-loving, short-sighted people seek after, but seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things, prosperity, wisdom, happiness, riches shall be added unto you, without your having to pray for them." The person who finds God owns the cosmos, and owning the cosmos he owns everything in it. Jesus had full realization of his oneness with the Father. That is why he could do many things that deluded mortals could not do. He raised the dead. He rebuilt his mutilated body. Compare a millionaire on his deathbed, forced away from his home and fortune without a penny, with Jesus Christ after death, who owned the kingdom of omnipresence. So do not desire to be a millionaire. It is a waste of time to delude yourself with material desires. Rather wish and strive to be a Christ. Invest your time in daily meditation, ever longer and deeper. This is the quickest way to become a Christ. What of it even if you became a millionaire? You would then want still more, and would perhaps die of heart failure working for another million. To strive for God contact in meditation is pure joy. You will be happy when you meditate, and you will be happier still when you arrive at the end of the trail of meditation and meet God, the King of ever new joy. During your sojourn on earth, remember that you are only a movie actor. You may be called upon to enact any part, tragedy or comedy. You must play it well, and as you watch your tragic portrayals say, "That was a fine, sad